Can everybody hear me?
You're good?
Kara?
I can hear you. Yep.
All right, cool. So, so this means, Kara, you and I are doing hats off.
All right.
All right, so you can go first.
All right. We ready?
Yep, we're ready. We're already recording.
All right. So I was scrolling across my Facebook feed, and up pops this picture of a terrifyingly huge snake eating a fish, and I thought, why is my local news covering a story about a giant Amazonian snake? And turns out that this giant snake is in Iowa. Apparently, we'll put the picture on the website because it is freaking crazy. Seriously, it makes me not want to go to Iowa ever again. And in the article, which is the problem because that's where my husband's from.
Oh,
And
that snake is the deal breaker.
If people are watching or listening to the podcast, I believe we have to avoid Indiana because of pooping on the running trail, and now Iowa is off the list of places to visit as well because of giant snakes.
Yeah, it's apparently it's a northern water snake, which is freaky anyway because water snakes can go so fast that you just have no chance of surviving. Although he's not poisonous, he's just this is like a 3-foot long catfish this thing could eat by whole. So I guess I just want to say hats off to that snake for being so freaking terrifying.
Hats off to random reptiles
Right.
who live in places they're not supposed to live.
Yes.
It scares Kara because she is apparently afraid of being swallowed, even though she is not the size of a catfish.
Well, I just what would you do? I would never expect to see a creature that big. It doesn't say how long it is. Based on the picture, I would guess it was 10 feet long, and it's really, really thick around. And I would expect that perhaps if I was wandering through the rainforest. I would not expect that if I was swimming in the Kalamazoo River, which you shouldn't do because it's really polluted. But I would never expect to see a 10-foot giant anaconda coming towards me. And the thought that that's possible just makes me never want to go in the water again.
But they've got the Field of Dreams, and now I don't know what to do about Iowa.
I know. I guess I have to go there. We're going there for camp in a couple weeks.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess I'll just stay out of the water.
Wait, you're going for camp, Kara?
Yeah.
We'll be
We go to Midwest Bible Camp every summer for a week.
We will be praying for you. If you lose any members, let us know.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. It's funny because they have this giant man-made lake there, which was already kind of creepy, but it's been drained the past few years to clean it out, and just last year they filled it back up again. But
rehydrate the dead ones.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. Probably there's just snake carcasses on the floor of the lake, and now they're angry because they just were shriveled and left for dead.
Right? It's like resurrection.
It is. They're vampire snakes.
Oh.
Do they keep diaries?
Oh. Well, they don't have any arms, but I wonder.
You did there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, neither do the characters on VeggieTales, but somehow they managed to clap.
VeggieTales, Okay, we're not singing on this one?
Yeah, no.
You sang DuckTales? We're not singing this one? Okay, fine.
Cartoon songs every single episode. So,
people are gonna stop listening to us.
This is the stupidest podcast ever. Anyhow, so that's my hats off this week is my hats off is to Calvin Moore of Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
That's right. This is a self hats off.
This better be good.
Can you take your own hat off to yourself?
All right. No. Okay. So
Kara's I would have chose something else.
Here's the thing. All right. So, Chuck Norris.
Already great.
Already amazing.
I'm so confused and intrigued.
All right. So Chuck Norris posts on Facebook. Yesterday at 8:43 p.m., Chuck Norris posted, "Today was very special for me. After 30 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training with the endorsement of Professor Jean-Jacques Mercado, Professor David Dunn promoted me to 3rd degree black belt." He's like, "All right, so
awesome.
That's great. Okay, so
good for you, Chuck Norris.
Yeah, good for you, Chuck Norris. But
you're 80.
I know, right? Well, here's the thing, right? I wouldn't fight him,
No.
As people probably know, unless you have not been on the internet in the last 10 years, there are a bunch of Chuck Norris jokes and Chuck Norris memes. So in the comments section, I wrote, and there were a bunch of people who commented, and I don't know why nobody did this, but I commented, "No one promotes Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris promotes the third-degree black belt." And as of right now, there are 5,000 likes on that comment.
Well done.
Well
Since
done.
8:57 yesterday,
5,000. Like, I wish I could get 5,000 people to like something on my own Facebook. So hats off to me. Okay, so since we're talking about Chuck Norris, I thought if you don't know about these jokes, here are a few of them, just to kind of give you some perspective. When Alexander Bell invented the telephone, he had 3 missed calls from Chuck Norris. Let's see. Chuck Norris has already been to Mars. That's why there are no signs of life. Chuck Norris once ate an entire birthday cake before his friends could tell him there was a stripper hidden inside. When Chuck Norris does push-ups, he doesn't push himself up. He pushes the whole world down. I think my favorite one is Chuck Norris's tears cure cancer. Too bad he's never cried.
My favorite Chuck Norris, it's a little ominous even, is Chuck Norris doesn't sleep. He waits.
He waits.
Yeah.
Remember what? Chuck Norris doesn't believe in the theory of evolution. Only a series of animals he's allowed to let live.
Yes.
Chuck Norris can slam a revolving door. That's so funny.
So the real question is, did Chuck Norris like your comment?
He has not liked my comment yet. Wait,
You went
he
through
might have.
5,000.
Well, I didn't go through 5,000 likes, so he may
Like
have.
Chuck Norris uses Facebook.
He
You know what? Let's be honest. It's his rep that would like it anyway.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris can win a game of Connect 4 in 3 moves. Oh, that's so funny. Oh,
Let me just say, this just came across my screen. I do not want to compete for the extra attention here, but I'm not even going to call this a hats off because it's not really my turn. But Betsy Palmer, who played Mrs. Voorhees in the Friday the 13th movies, died today at age 88. So hats off to you, creepy old lady, and natural causes. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
You were probably running through the woods,
Yep.
and Jason was walking, and somehow supernaturally caught up with you.
Somehow.
That never. So hats off to the creepy old lady from Jason Voorhees. But I tell you what, if Jason Voorhees went up against Chuck Norris, no contest. No contest.
No.
I don't know if you guys know, Chuck Norris actually once saw the Invisible Man. Anyway, these are so great. Okay, so none of that has anything to do with what the podcast is going to be about. But okay, so this issue. Let's see. Sorry, my boss is hunting me down on this thing that's supposed to happen tomorrow. She keeps texting me. Okay, so this week I'm actually going to just read this story so we can kind of have an idea of what's going on. But this week, the Alabama State Senate passed a bill that would end the practice of licensing marriages in the state, effectively nullifying both major sides of the contentious national debate over government-sanctioned marriage. So, you know, straight marriage, gay marriage, that's kind of the big thing right now in the media. And so introduced by Senator Greg Albritton, who is a Republican of Bay Minette, Senate Bill 377 would end state-issued marriage licenses while providing marriage contracts as an alternative. It passed through the Alabama State Senate by a 22-3 margin on May 19th. And he was quoted as saying, when you invite the state into those matters of personal and religious import, it creates difficulties. Go back long ago in a galaxy far, far away, early 20th century, if you go back and look to try to find marriage licenses for your grandparents or great-grandparents, you won't find it. What you will find instead is where people have come in and recorded when a marriage has occurred. The bill would replace all references to marriage licenses in state law with contracts. The legislation would not invalidate any marriage licenses issued prior to the bill being passed. And so this is kind of the way. I guess it's going to become effective July 1st. It's going to become the law, where it would nullify both sides of the debate on gay marriage versus straight marriage, and they would be taken out of the game if there's any kind of federal decision that comes down from the Supreme Court about marriages being recognized by the federal government and the state together. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this? I know this is a pretty contentious issue out there right now, gay marriage and straight marriage.
About Alabama, you know what? Let me go back a few years and say that I want to say it was 2003 when President Bush was trying to drum up support for the Iraq invasion. He referred to an axis of evil, which I believe was the countries of Iraq, Iran, and North Korea. What state are we talking? Sorry, edit this out. Alabama. Sorry, Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas are an axis of ignorance, and I haven't yet found any time that they've done something progressive or forward-thinking that they didn't have an ulterior motive. Alabama is the boss hog of the 50 states. So what are they up to?
Thank you for the Dukes of Hazzard reference there.
I don't get
it. So, are those your actual thoughts on the issue, or?
I mean, my thoughts are developing. I mean, I read the whole story, and I wonder, what are they trying to accomplish? Because I guarantee you, the Alabama is not trying to accomplish making it easier for gays to get married. They're not giving up.
By no means.
They're not giving up. So, I'm hesitant. I'm cautious. I don't really know where to come down because I don't know what the goal of this was.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think that, I mean, let's be honest. The gay people in this country, in the United States of America, make up less than 2% of the population. Okay, but they are demanding tons and tons and tons of media coverage, tons and tons and tons of times, and I don't even care about the media coverage. They're demanding time of legislators, tons of time of legislators when they can be doing other things, right? And that's not to say that it's not important. It is important. But the fact of the matter is, it's such a contentious, causing people who want, and this is me having, again, I tend to think the best of people. When I think people get into politics, I think that they want to serve their neighbor and help others and help as many people as they possibly can, which is why you get into politics. Maybe after a while you're staying there because you want to consolidate your power, but I hope that people get in because they want to serve their neighbor. And here's this issue, this major contentious issue that, let's be honest, if you vote a certain way, let's say you vote your conscience and you say you're for gay marriage, let's say you vote for it and you're in a very conservative state, you can lose your job. Or let's say that you vote against it and you're in a pretty liberal state and you could lose your job. Meanwhile, you've got a million other things that you're working on that can help people out, that can really help people, but now you're going to lose your job because people say, oh, he's against gay marriage, so let's take him out, or he's for gay marriage, so let's take him out. So by nullifying,
you can't win either way.
Right, you can't win either way. So by nullifying this, they don't have to deal with it at all.
I actually kind of agree with that. I think that I mean, I don't know if I'd put it the same way as Cal, but I think that this way it kind of gets, like, it washes their hands of it, right? Kind of like, in the Bible where he's like, I'm washing my hands of your death, even though it's going to happen or whatever. Like, I feel like, I don't know if they have an ulterior motive for it, but I think that they do not want to have to deal with it. And honestly, my opinion on what they did is I kind of like it because I feel like it really shouldn't be a matter of the state to sanction marriage, because if it is sanctioned, it's not a government thing, right? Now, how they choose to honor them and how they choose to record them, I mean, that's a matter of government, you know? But I think that the idea of them washing their hands of it, I actually kind of think for a change, it's a little bit refreshing because I feel like a lot of times we see the exact opposite. We see government wanting to come in and control and mandate a lot of things. And it's kind of refreshing to say, hey, we're going to give this back to the people. I kind of
No, don't get me wrong. I kind of like it too. But what you said about what you were saying about how people can get in trouble and it's a very contentious issue if you vote one way, and it could affect you either way. I would expect that this would be taken, that this is an action that would be taken by what we would think of as a swing state, like an Ohio or a Florida, Pennsylvania. Alabama does not seem to be the state that will wash its hands of a contentious issue. Alabama's the Chief Justice of Alabama is notorious for being an attack dog for cultural values. So if defying federal courts on the marriage issue, it just seems like Alabama would be the last possible state that would. What am I saying? It seems like Alabama would be the last conceivable state to just say, whatever.
The interesting thing about this is the person who originally posted this, where I saw this, is a good friend of mine, and even he is kind of, I think, saying along the same lines as what you were saying when he posted it. He's like, wow, of all the states to do this,
yeah,
I would not have thought that it would have been Alabama. But he also thought, of all the states to not have their heads up their rear on this issue, on this matter, I was not expecting it to be Alabama. And it sets, if anything, it sets a precedent for, I think, and here's where the cynical side of me comes up, I think this sets the precedent for politicians who don't want to deal with this anymore to say, hey, let's vote on this, let's get out of the marriage business, and we'll replace it with something, and yeah, we got to be involved in the mix because of tax purposes and all that, but let's get out of the marriage business so that, it can now be a private thing again. It can be something where religious institutions or social institutions deal with this, but let us deal with government. Let us deal with fixing the roads. Let us deal with taxing businesses and taxing families, and let us deal with education, and let us deal with all the. We don't want to deal with this marriage issue anymore. Before it was just, hey, you're getting married, $50. That was what we had to deal with. Now we're like, wait, you want to marry who? You want to marry what? You want to marry, huh?
Right. Well, I also think that it's interesting because in the article it also says that even he points out the pro about the need for marriage licenses for anybody is they can actually deny you one. Now it's no longer in their control. And I mean, I think it kind of begs the question if the government maybe got into something that maybe shouldn't have been a government issue to start with. Should it ever have been up to the government to issue marriages, essentially? Or, because like you said, it used to not be that. So it's kind of like an over government. We've always known it to be that way, so I don't think we view it that way. But maybe it is over government, and they're kind of stepping back and saying, you know what, this isn't working out so good. So we're going to step back here, and we recognize that we've maybe gotten involved where it doesn't make sense, And so we're going to cut back on government instead of increase it here, because you're demanding stuff from us that's going to mix church and state. And actually, I kind of think that it makes sense, And as far as it being Alabama, my thoughts are Alabama's had a really bad rap,
Well, they did beat black people as they were going across the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
For not being...
It may have been a well-earned bad rap.
Anybody remember Selma and hanging black people on their way home from work?
Yes, exactly. But I mean, as a political move. It is very, very savvy of them to say, you know what, we haven't been the most accepting here. It's actually a very, very strong move that they're making. We haven't been an accepting state, so maybe we'll be a little more. Let's be the first and the forerunners in accepting this time, because we failed really badly at the last turn.
And I would love to think that's what they're thinking.
Well, it doesn't mean that they have to actually think that in their personal beliefs, but politically it sets a precedence to the rest of the country and can maybe repair something. I mean, I'm saying there could be political motive for that.
Something that's said in this article, and I'm reading a lot of this article because I'm finding it fascinating, but it says something that is rarely considered by those seeking, so quote, something that is rarely considered by those seeking to control the state's definition of marriage is that a marriage license means a citizen requires the permission of their government before they can get married. A person cannot drive a vehicle, aside from limited circumstances, without a license. A person cannot practice law without a license, nor can they engage in medical care. Put another way, marriage is not a right or a religious institution, but a privilege the state grants us if we meet the conditions put upon us. And I think that's really interesting that they have characterized, if the state is issuing marriage licenses, all the other it's putting it in line with the other licenses. Okay, this is what it means. The state is granting you this right, and so I think that it's. I hadn't ever thought about it that way. I was married at one point.
Licenses can be revoked.
Yeah, I'm now divorced. Right. Yeah, if I do the wrong thing, I can have my license revoked. And I did end up having my license revoked because my wife divorced me, so we live in a no-fault divorce state and things like that. But I never thought of it in terms of here's a driver's license. The state gives me the right to do this. Here's a medical license. I can now practice medicine in the state of Michigan. I'm not practicing medicine, but you know what I'm getting here. Getting at here. And so if you put marriage license in there, you now have a license to do this, but you have met certain criteria. You actually have states like, if I'm not mistaken, Arizona, which I believe, don't quote me on this, has one of the lower divorce rates because in order to get a marriage license, in order to have the right to marry in the state, you have to go to, not to get the right. There's some sort of special dispensation given for people who go to premarital counseling. Like you're given some sort of special privileges or something like that. Like it's less of a cost or something like that for your marriage license and all that jazz. And then I guess they have a lower divorce rate because people are more prepared on the other side of it. But again, it's still like here's a special privilege granted to you in relation to this license, us giving you the right to marry if you do this thing that we feel is helpful over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that and they may still. I mean, if Arizona adopted this, which let's be honest. Arizona isn't the bastion of cultural understanding or anything like that, so they might do this as well.
But in a totally different way, with a totally different set of people.
Yes, they're shooting people coming across the border.
Actually, they've actually just given themselves the right. What's interesting here, though, is that I do like that it's no longer a government issue for marriages, but they actually have made it easier for them to stand by whatever their religious or personal convictions are. So they've almost given themselves the right to allow people to discriminate, though. That's the catch.
Oh.
So maybe, I mean, just throwing that out there. I mean, it doesn't say that they can't record marriages, but this is saying we are taking our hands off of it, so we're also not going to fight your battles on if somebody refuses to marry you. Because it's no longer mandated.
Okay.
I had sorry, I've been listening, enjoying the conversation, but I had a very similar reaction to you guys when I read this. It was really positive. I think less government is always a good idea. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the government to kind of back off a little bit when it comes to marriage because I mean, I have my views on marriage, but just because your views might be different doesn't mean that only one of us should be allowed to get married. I mean, that's not right. And I think one of the arguments you hear the most from gay rights activists is, what do you care who I marry? Like, how does it affect you? And I think that's a valid point. I mean, what does it matter to me if you're just living together or if you're married? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect me at all. Like, I have my own concerns that come from my faith, but just as far as living my day-to-day life, you have the right to make the choices that you want to make. And I think it's nice that Alabama is looking for a way to make that possible. Now, I have to wonder how gay advocates are feeling about this, because I think there's part of the legal battle that is, yeah, we want to have the rights to get married, but I think even more important than that is acceptance. It's not just because that's why there was problems with having like a civil union. People didn't want a civil union; they wanted a marriage, because that said that you accept that what I have is the same as what you have, and conservative Christians especially really struggled with that because they have different views of marriage. So it's really hard to say what I have is the same as what you have. I think they're very different things. So I guess I wonder if gay advocates would not take that as kind of a slight, to be like, well, we'll just stop calling everything marriage. We'll stop giving certificates to our licenses to everything, so that we don't have to. I don't know. Rather than
it levels the playing field, so it is the same.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do, but instead of taking gay marriage and making it equal, like bringing it up a notch, making it equal to marriage, a traditional marriage, they're taking traditional marriage and bringing it down a notch to make it equal to any other kind of marriage. And who knows, like, what the requirements are to get the certificate? Like, they say anything, but could, like, a brother marry a sister? Could and get a marriage certificate because now the state's not involved?
Well, it does say in here that you just can't already be married, and you can't be married to more than one person.
Okay. So that's all there is to it.
It's still two people. You're right.
Yeah, it's just a recording. Like, there isn't a other requirements, at least not that they've listed. But I don't think it's taking marriage down. I have to rebuttal that a little bit, because by saying that, you're saying that your great grandpa whatever in that state is also degraded. If their marriage
that's not what I'm saying.
No, but I mean, but it's if they used to not, okay, if the government got involved and they said, hey, all of a sudden it requires a license, and now they're saying, you know what, we're taking that back and we're going to go back to kind of how it was. It doesn't lessen traditional marriage.
I agree with you. What I'm saying, I totally agree with you. I think that's right, and I like this bill. What I'm saying is, I wonder how gay advocates or gay people will feel about this bill, if they'll see it the same way.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I wonder if they'll say, well, you'd rather just get rid of marriage licenses altogether than to give us a marriage license. I wonder if it feels like a slight. And just knowing the state that it's coming from, a very conservative state.
It's absolutely a slight. It is absolutely a slight. But the fact of the matter is,
it's a win for them.
It's technically a win, because I mean, here's the thing: you'll have people who are from the gay community who will absolutely applaud, like a judge who says, you know what, until gay people have the same rights that straight people have, I will no longer issue any marriage licenses. I personally, as a judge, it doesn't mean the state won't. And I'll be like, oh, bravo, that is so brave.
And they have
so brave, not offering any marriage licenses to anybody until gay people get married. So brave of you. It's such a huge move on your part. All right, and they'll applaud it, right? But then when something like this happens, where the state says, look, we're getting out of it altogether. We don't, hey, you know what? You're gay and you want to get married, we're going to give you a contract, and you're going to have the same right as a straight person over here. The straight person's going to have the contract. You're going to be like, oh, they won't give us a marriage license. Woe is me. We're now all equal, which is what we've been striving for, but it's not called marriage, so it's not really marriage. All we get are contracts. We're second-class citizens. You're all second-class citizens now. So that makes you all first-class citizens. That makes you all equal. You are all in the same class. You can choose to name that class whatever you want to name it. Okay, so now here's the thing. We understand this is absolutely a slight. But going back to what I said at the very beginning, I think that, and kind of agreeing with what you said, Kara, earlier on, where you said, you know what, less government, not a bad thing, right? So I'm not upset with that view either. Less government involved. the better, in my opinion, as well. That's showing some of my political cards. But here's the deal. I think at the end of the day, this is for a lot of politicians who are like, look, I got a lot bigger fish to fry than who you're having sex with, who you're going to live the rest of your life with. Okay? And I do believe that the mantra of, how is what I'm doing affecting you? I do believe that's a false idea. I believe that what people do impinges upon other people. It does affect other people. It sounds nice in theory, but there are things that I do as a straight person, like, hey, you know what? Me getting married and you not being able to get married, and me voting that way, that impinges on you. That, how I vote impinges on you, right? There are things that I do and how I live that impinge on your life and affect your life, right? But the fact of the matter is, I honestly think that this is just my opinion. I think that a lot of politicians are like, look, enough is enough. We've dealt with this enough. We're putting everybody on the same playing field, and we're getting back to the business of governing this state. Everyone is now equal. That is what you wanted. We're not calling it marriage, but everybody's equal, and we're going to go back to fixing all this other stuff. If you want to talk about all this in California and Arizona and Michigan and and New York City and everywhere else, you can feel free to do that. But here in Alabama, we're going to govern, and you can talk about gay marriage elsewhere.
Yeah, it's truly a compromise by them, and I think a great one, and I hope that is perceived that way.
Well, I just want to bring up something. I actually have a slightly different view than what was just presented, and let me explain. One, I think they took something that was highly complex, because when there are some difficulties if the government is mandating marriage and you're supposed to have a separation of church and state, there's the issue of now if we go in and tell churches and religious institutions what they have to do, right? So that's where some of the people, and that isn't the case in a lot of places, but that's where it can get a little muddied, right? Is how do we make this legal, and make them have the rights, but also, protect them, not let people discriminate against them, and protect people's religious freedoms and rights to believe or have their faith too. And so they had a lot of things that were kind of at two different ends, or a dichotomy. They're at polar opposites to each other, or two sides of the same coin. And so it kind of protects the religious side and the separation of church and state, and at the same time gives everybody the equal opportunity and freedoms. And so I don't know, I mean, maybe we're being a little bit too hard on them, because it does kind of give both sides a win. And I think that that's kind of what's really beautiful about this. They're saying, you know what, we're going to get out of the field. We're not going to mandate this for somebody. We're also not going to deny you the same rights as everybody else. And I think that that's what's really cool about it. I do want to rebuttal a little bit against the comments on how that this is kind of a slam against the gay community. I actually disagree. And the reason I say that, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some of the gay community that will take it that way, okay? But I also think there's a large amount of the gay community that will look at it very differently as a big win. And I say this because of conversations I've had with a very close person I have in my life. My brother lives a homosexual lifestyle, and, not trying to get into all of that here right now, but I love him dearly, and, it puts me in a position of having to, see where he's at and what he struggles with versus, my faith and what I see the word say, and etc. And that's a bigger conversation. But one of the things that I thought was interesting in this is one of the things that he has said all along is that marriage should not be by government, or, it should be something essentially like, the rights to his partner getting a green card or whatever shouldn't be something regulated by the church, or it shouldn't be something, that it should be taken out of the hands that it is. And so I think that the idea of separating it and saying we're no longer going to make this a religious issue, we're going to take it down to just everybody gets this recording if they have it, actually does exactly what I know him and others in the community I've heard wanted. Maybe it did it in a different kind of way, but to make it have that same acceptance and make it not a religious thing is exactly what he wanted, because he doesn't want to change people's religion and convictions, etc. Now, I know that's not everybody in the community,
Right.
but I just wanted to represent the other side.
I think ultimately one of the things that it says, though, and why people are pushing for marriage is some gay people do believe that marriage is in fact a religious institution, and by taking that right away from them, they're feeling like people are saying that God hates them. And there are people who have different views on gay marriage based on what Scripture says or doesn't say in some people's cases. But when it is a religious institution, when a religious institution will not marry them, will not bury them, will not do a number of things because of their homosexuality, that communicates to them that God hates me. You believe that God hates me. The God that you worship hates who I am. God made me this way. And we're not going to get into the debate over all that right now, because we got to wind this down. But I think that there is a protracted effort to engage the religious nature of marriage because of what it says about God speaking about their value as human beings.
Well, he doesn't care if somebody disagrees with him. What he cares about is, why can't his, significant other, if he wants to get married, have his life insurance, have his, benefits, have a green card, have whatever basic federal, state rights, government rights as everybody else. And so that's not where everybody stands on it, but this does that.
Okay. So I think we'll close out there. And obviously we're not going to solve this issue.
Right.
But I think it was a good conversation. It's a good, fruitful one. Kent, I know you got to get going, so we're going to close it right at 9:30. Sorry we didn't get done earlier.
I got to be honest with you. We called off for tonight.
Oh,
So
you do?
my friends are out of town and they got back late and blah blah blah, wine. Watch it on HBO now.
Oh, God.
So
Well, do you have any thoughts on it? Because you didn't speak too much then.
I didn't speak too much. I guess I've done a lot of listening this episode, more than talking, which a lot of people would say should happen more often. And yeah, I mean, honestly, the more I've heard about it, the more of a fan of the idea I am. The cure for prejudice in Alabama. I don't want this to sound too harsh. Don't take this the wrong way. The cure for prejudice in Alabama is not education. It's a whole bunch of funerals. And by that I mean when you grow up 65, 70 years thinking a certain way, people coming to your door with pamphlets trying to change your mind are not going to do it. The world is going to change slowly, and we may not be around to see it. So until that happens, if we can change the laws to avoid some of the argument and to avoid some of the rancor and just try to get back to what it is that government does well, I'm all in favor of it.
And I would say that I agree, and I think that's on any issue.
Yes.
Not just on this one.
Yes.
And again, that kind of goes back to the beginning of what I said. It's like we want to get back to the business of governing, right? And that's, I mean, here's the thing: people are the ones who are being governed, and so all these issues matter to some. So gay marriage matters to some people, and guess what? Honestly, gay marriage really doesn't matter too much to me. Race matters to me more. That's not to say that gay marriage doesn't matter. That's to say that this matters to me. But then there are people who are like, you know what? Conservation matters to me. Hey, you know what? Campaign contribution overhaul matters to me. These are things, people have different things that matter to them, and I think that there are certain issues in the culture that are sensationalized and get much more play in the media and in the day-to-day news and day-to-day conversation, and it gets in the way of proper governance. And I think when Alabama makes a very strange move for Alabama, that allows them to get back to governing, I think that's I think that's a win. And I think whether it's gay marriage or any other issue, being able to get back to governing and helping as many people, helping as many neighbors as possible, I think that's a win. I think that's a good thing.
I feel like we could use more bills like this, like where the government gets back to being the government. And I think it's a return kind of to their roots of like, we are, for the people, by the people, like giving it back to the people to govern. And I think that that's actually, whatever the motivation and whatever the political slants are on this, I think that that's beautiful.
All right. We will end there. There we go. So, sorry that your group was canceled tonight.
Yeah, I'll get to bed earlier.
I guess you're going to do HBO. Yeah, because you can just start it right now, can't you?
This is a social event. But honestly, I don't pay for HBO, which is kind of a bonus to why we have these parties. There's not enough on HBO for me to pay for it. So, ironically, I pay for the app. I pay for HBO Now. So, yeah, I guess I am paying for it.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I might watch it tonight. We'll see.
All right. Well, have a good night. Kara already left. Apparently, she was bored with your story.
Bye, Kara.
Bye, Kara. Whatever.
All right.
Whatever. See you later, Kara.
Yes. Guess I'm not going to be able to call you about Caillou after all. So, all right.
All right. See you later.
See you later.